10 years and still learning how to cope. Most of you watching this probably already know that I have lupus, but how much do you know about my life with lupus? Exactly 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with lupus, and while it's been dormant ever since, having to explain it to people is difficult. This is all based on my personal experience, so I can't say that everyone with lupus is affected in the same way or has the same symptoms and lifestyle. It all started when my thumb and my knee started hurting. Why would an 11-year-old's joints be hurting? 1 week later, I found myself stuck in bed and with a massive headache, no appetite, and a fever that would not subside. The first doctor I saw questioned the strange patterns on my body. Lacy patterns on my thighs, the butterfly rash across my cheek. But I went to go see a specialist because many of these symptoms are struggles of arthritis or the flu, and so that's why lupus is so hard to diagnose. It wasn't until about 2 weeks later when I was diagnosed, and on average it takes 6 months to be diagnosed. There is no cause or cure for lupus. Lupus is an autoimmune disorder, non-contagious disease. It is unpredictable, and while it can affect people of all genders, ethnicity, or age, lupus is generally more common in women of color. I was afraid and ashamed of the word lupus for the first few years of my life. I couldn't say lupus out loud with having a low-key panic attack, and I didn't want anyone to talk to me about lupus or ask me about it. Honestly, to this day, talking about lupus is not an easy topic. The one time I went to the principal's office, I was to construct a letter to my fellow classmates and their parents describing what lupus was. I even remember asking my teacher if I could leave the room when he passed out the letter. I didn't want to be around all the people I knew the last 6 years to know that I had lupus. But during this time, this is when I became closer with two of my best friends, who I'm still friends with to this day. Since lupus is a sun-sensitive disease, Annie and Brittany would stay indoors with me, playing all sorts of games like Uno, Pictionary, and Madcap. As time, Brittany was also dealing with her own illness, and we were figuring out how to live with our own illnesses. And we were bonding over the fact that we gained over 45 pounds in 2 months because of the medications we were on. Just having someone there to relate to and just having them to talk to about it helped so much. And I was at that point in my life when I started caring about how I looked and how much I weighed and all these different kinds of appearance things. And one day, one of my friends asked me why I looked like a chipmunk. And I'm sure he wasn't trying to be rude, just observant, but that was a rough day for me. Living with lupus means taking my daily medications, extra precautions with sun exposure, avoiding areas exposed to illnesses, and getting routine blood work and urine tests every few months, but also just being honest with myself. I want to say more than half the time, I don't know if lupus is affecting me or if I'm just growing up and being a pain. I can't tell if I'm tired from socializing or want to be alone, or if I'm just fatigued and actually just need rest. Sometimes I just don't really want to go hang out with my friends, and I just want to be in bed at 10 p.m. Or if I can't tell if I didn't study hard enough for a test, or if it's just lupus fog clouding my memory. The lab work that I had done back then came back with weird numbers, so I had a biopsy done on my kidney in December of 2008. The kidney is important in flushing out waste from the body, and since kidneys are one of the major organs that lupus affects, my doctors wanted to make sure my kidneys were not failing. And a biopsy is essentially extracting a tiny part of a living tissue and studying it, and in my case, my kidney. And so now I always have a little scar on my back as a reminder. I don't remember the exact moment I began accepting the fact that I had lupus, but through suffering, I just learned to do what I can to control the controllable. I try to be optimistic, and I've learned to just keep the most important people in my life around. Those who truly love and care for me by showing it through their actions. This outlook on life really hit me when one of my classmates, Janessa, and her mother passed away in the San Bruno fire pipeline explosion September 9, 2010. That morning, I was going to ask her if she wanted to watch our sister's tennis match, but I decided against it. Realizing that maybe if I had asked her that one simple question, I told myself, because there's so many uncertainties in life, it's okay to be cautious and guarded, but I have to balance that while still living life to the fullest. A few years after my diagnosis, I seemed to be getting the whole living with lupus thing down. My closest friends knew that I had it. I always had a big hat with me. I was regularly exercising by playing volleyball. I was in school. But on July 4th, 2013, a weird rash appeared on my back. And at first I thought it was eczema in a weird spot because it was summer and it was hot. But the rash spread. It spread from my lower back all the way down and around my groin and down my right leg. And a burning sensation, uncontrollable itch. I couldn't walk or stand or do anything longer than 5 seconds without being uncomfortable. It was so painful that I couldn't sleep in my own bed. I slept on the couch for a couple days until I was admitted back to the hospital. It turns out that I had the shingles. Yes, the shingles that usually elderly people get. And, thankfully this wasn't a lupus flare, but my immune system is weakened by lupus. With lupus, my immune system cannot tell the difference between my body's healthy tissue cells and foreign invaders. And later that year, I began junior year of high school, and I was diagnosed with depression. I spent the rest of my summer contemplating life and how scary it was to just go from spending the night at my best friend's house to so much pain in the hospital. It's been 3 years since Janice and Jackie passed away, and it was junior year of high school, the most important and stressful year supposedly in high school. But through all this, I've learned different coping strategies. Yes, I do still have days when I want to be alone and build a puzzle all by myself, or curl up in a ball and cuddle with my stuffed animals. But now I still go to school and I lived a plant-based diet. I continue exercising by playing ultimate frisbee, which yes is an outdoor sport where I spend the whole weekend outside in the sun, which is probably not the best, but I'm having fun and I'm still healthy. But the most effective coping strategy of all is staying in touch with my family and friends. They know I still have trouble talking about lupus, but they're always there to listen. Sure, they don't know what it's like to live with lupus, but they don't judge me or treat me differently than anyone else would. They just know in the back of my mind that lupus is a part of me, even if it doesn't define me. I actually just wrote a research paper about how loved ones can help cope, and you can read that in the description below. My sister noticed me become more organized and diligent about daily schedules and lifestyle changes, and apparently I've blossomed into a mature, strong lady, and I'm one of the strongest people she knows, even if I don't express it outwardly. I originally started this YouTube video series in 2014 to go along with captaining a team for the Walk to End Lupus Now event. I knew my sister cared about me, but I didn't realize how much she cared about me and thought about my life with lupus until she had to write personal statements for college. She asked if she could write about me, and I wasn't sure what that entailed since I don't like people talking about me. But as she told me, lupus has changed my life forever, thus changing hers. And I know there are times when she forgets that I have lupus and its effects and asks me to go hang out with her outside in the sun, even deep down she knows I should limit my sun exposure. Sometimes I also like to live life as if I didn't have lupus and it wasn't a part of me and it doesn't affect me. But as Sam recognized, lupus is a weight I carry every day. Day to day I act as a responsible mom of our friend group. I always have my little ducklings in a row and know what the next plan of action is. And Sam is right about lupus being unpredictable, and thus my strong desire to control the controllable. It takes me a long time to let anyone in my life, and honestly, if you don't live up to my expectations or I get bad vibes from you, I'm quick to assess you and where you stand in my life. People constantly come and go in your life, and with lupus being such a big part of me, and so vague and complicated, it's so hard trying to describe lupus over and over and over again. And honestly, I feel like a burden to other people. A burden that I may not physically be well enough to do what they want, or a reason why we have to schedule plans around doctor visits, or just a concern when I'm with other people. Cheri, Sam, Annie, and Brittany are just a few of the people I have in my life I can turn to while struggling with lupus. Whether it is by having them at the Walk to End Lupus Now event, or listening to me rant, or sharing videos like this. While I am physically apart from all of them now, I know I have them and other people here with me that I can rely on. All the little things just help. So I guess the reason why I wanted to share this all with you was just to spread awareness. I urge you to do what you can to help millions of people with lupus, whether it's researching or donating, sharing this video, asking me questions, but also just check in with all the people you care about. Whether or not they have an illness. If you live with them, if you haven't seen them in years, know your friends, understand them, and invite them out, even if they already have plans. But let them know that you're thinking of them. You never really know what's going on in a person's life, and maybe you won't know the whole story. But sometimes all one needs is a hug or a smile or a simple text to brighten up their day.